free grace is false. I really hope y'all not out here intentionally sinning. You're literally saying at 2:19, you trust in Jesus for your salvation one time, you are guaranteed to go to heaven. That's correct. Basically, you're giving people permission to lead others to hell while saving your own ass. Can you see how ridiculous this already sounds? Repenting means turn away from sin. Hypocrite much? And one that's born again does not willfully sin. Yes, we are sinners, but people of Christ are not willful sinners. Those are the people of the devil. So actually, you are a heretic giving believers false assurances to think they are saved living in sin. Some of us have faith in the Spirit that He will strengthen us to stop willfully sinning. The idiot don't answer. You right. They're going to be told to depart because they kept sinning and breaking the law willfully. So you get the idea. Intentionally sinning, willfully sinning, living in sin, etc. Those are just a handful of comments I've received on my channel. One sin sends you to hell, not living in sin. This is one of the main issues with modern Christianity. It's this ignorance of sin. I feel like I need to really drive this point home, make it abundantly clear, to make everyone guilty, and to stop the mouths of everyone, as it says in Romans. And this is good news, whether you realize it or not. And I'll explain that, but first, here's an illustration. You're born into the world an innocent baby, and by the way, all babies who die go to heaven. How do I know this? Well, let's just pretend a baby is unsaved and on their way to hell. Okay, give that baby the gospel so they can believe on Jesus. Exactly, they wouldn't be able to be saved. And these Catholics who think getting babies wet gets them saved, it doesn't do anything. All babies who die go to heaven. Now, when this ends and they reach the age of accountability, who knows? Which brings me to my next point. You're born into this world an innocent baby, and then fast forward a few years, you reach the age of accountability. There was a point in your life when you committed your first sin. This sin sends you to hell. Forget about the sins you committed yesterday. It's this sin you got to be worried about. It's the sin you committed when you were 16 or 18, whatever the age is. Again, the point is, it's the very first sin you committed in your life. There's a first time for everything. Your first girlfriend, your first boyfriend, your first day at elementary school, your first day of riding a bike, your first day of driving a car, your first day of committing sin. This is the sin you got to be worried about, because according to James chapter 2, verse 10, for whosoever shall keep the whole law and yet offend in one point, he is guilty of all. Galatians chapter 3, verse 10, for as many as are of the works of the law are under the curse, for it is written, cursed is everyone that continueth not in all things which are written in the book of the law to do them. There was a time in your life when you failed to keep the law in one point. Guilty of all. You've been under the curse of the law ever since. You could remain sinless your entire life after committing this sin. You could repent of this sin your entire life. You're still going to hell. Who can be saved then? That's the entire point. The point is to make you guilty. Now that you understand that you've been guilty ever since you committed your first sin, you simply place your trust in Jesus for your salvation. That He died for your sin, was buried, and rose again. Right? John chapter 3, verse 36, he that believeth on the Son hath everlasting life, and he that believeth not the Son shall not see life, but the wrath of God abideth on him. When you place your faith in Jesus, He takes the curse of the law for you, for the sin you committed. Galatians chapter 3, starting verse 13, Christ hath redeemed us from the curse of the law, being made a curse for us, for it is written, cursed is everyone that hangeth on a tree, that the blessing of Abraham might come on the Gentiles through Jesus Christ, that we might that we might receive the promise of the Spirit through faith. So what's stopping me from living in my sin then? Well, mainly you'll be miserable. If you sleep around with everyone, you'll get an STD. If you always lie, no one will believe you anymore. If you steal, you'll get in trouble with the law. Think of any sin, there's a consequence for it. You pay for your physical sin debt on earth. Jesus pays for your spiritual sin debt. So yes, the sin that sends you to hell is your first sin. If you struggle with a certain sin, just remember, it's not this sin I'm struggling with that sends me to hell. It was my first sin. If you never end up believing in Jesus, the sin you committed at 18, or whatever the age of accountability is, that's the sin that sends you to hell. That's all I got.